Without any further ado, I would like to invite the Honorable Finance Minister to deliver the keynote address. NIRMALA Sitharaman ji needs no introduction, but some brief excerpts from our bio. Madam pursued her Masters in Economics from JNU and submitted her thesis on Indo-European textile trade. She moved to London and worked as a Senior Manager Research and Analysis in Pricewaterhouse, London. After her return to India, she established Center for Public Policy Studies in Hyderabad in 1992. In 1997, she established Pranava, a school in Hyderabad that has won awards for its unconventional approach to education. She has had roles as a member of the National Commission for Women, member of the BJP National Executive, and in 2010 was appointed National Spokesperson of the party. In 2014, she was inducted to the Council of Ministers and she held the charge of Minister of State Independent Charge for Commerce and Industry. In 2017, she became the first full-time woman Defence Minister of India. And in 2019, Madam was given the responsibility of the Finance and Corporate Affairs Minister of India. She is also has played an important role by being part of the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs, Cabinet Committee on Political Affairs, and Cabinet Committee on Security. Madam, without any further ado, I request you to please address the hearing.
Good evening and namaskar. You've just heard a very scholarly presentation of a report on how UP has made a noticeworthy progress across the board, and therefore I was just wondering, sitting there, should I start from where Professor Raju left or repeat many of the things that he said. But first let me thank the organizers and also congratulate the Karnataka BJP for having come up with this knowledge content to the political work. It is distinctly praiseworthy because politics moves on a minute-to-minute basis. You keep responding or you keep setting the agenda and you keep just going forward. But a work through the economic cell, which I benefited from, so I'm very thankful to you all, has actually brought in that dimension which is very necessary for every political party to do. Earlier there used to be this tradition, irrespective of the parties, that their central organizing and executive board would sit and think about party and their ideology, whether the ideology is well entrenched, be it the Communist Party, Congress Party or Jalsang of those days, ideology. And that across the board, economic, social, national integration, national security, foreign policy, everything used to be churned out a lot. Nowadays probably it happens, but not as much as it used to earlier. But I'm happy to say in the BJP that culture prevails, and one advancement from one state unit is this economic cell and its monthly publication, all of which began in 2014, and within this 8 years, naturally, without having 1 month let off without a publication, they've reached 100 already. So all credits to the BJP Karnataka unit, the cell, and the content of the monthly publication is absolutely praiseworthy, and I can see every month it only gets further richer. So congratulations once again on reaching the 100th. I'd like to, at this time, very briefly, because I understand there's also an interaction with the party's All India Economic Cell and also the spokesperson, national spokesperson, Gopal Agarwalji. So, giving some time for that, I'll keep concise what I want to put forth before you. that between 2014 and today, what has been achieved, I'm not saying it more with a sense of, I feel very proud this has happened. I want it to be on our mind picture that a sheer impossible level of saturation. And when I say saturation, you launch something, it reaches a certain number of people, but there are more people who are eligible to get that. Do you reach all of them? And if you reached all of them who are eligible for something, then you have achieved saturation. Now, why do I start with talking about saturation? Because this country in 75 years have had several governments claiming Garibi Hatao, make possible that we reach out to all people, money should be there for everybody, 10-point program, if I remember, 20-point program. So there have been ever so many attempts to make the poor better, give them drinking water, provide them houses. All this has existed all these 75 years. What's the difference then between 2014 and today and all those years before? The difference is we, in each one of these cases, under Prime Minister Modi's leadership, attain saturation, meaning everyone who's eligible for it. We reach out, we ensure everybody gets it. And that is why the difference between all the Garibi Hataos of the world earlier and now is palpably felt by everybody. Now numbers can be reeled out, I don't want to burden you with that, but I'm highlighting these issues just so when each one of you, looking at one or the other aspect or all of it, will remember, oh yes, this is the point made, let me compare the numbers. Then you will get it for yourself as to what the number is. So I'm not burdening you with the numbers, but saturation principle, you keep it in mind. Now, saturation is because you know it is a measure of empowerment. Is every Indian who deserves to have at least basic facility given it, and after that is he aspiring to be better. You are empowering him to be sure that he's got his basic needs requirements met, and now he can look after other requirements of the family, and that is where the principle of empowerment starts working. Whereas when you treat people as people who have to get entitlements, oh he's poor, he's got to be given this money, oh he's poor, you have got to give him some house, oh he's poor, that becomes an entitlement without the grounding of you give him his basic, he'll take care of himself. And why should it be like this? Because that's where you respect the individual's own ability to take care of his family and not treat him as though you're incapable, I will give you money, you take care of yourself, and next time till I give you the money you'll have to be beholden to me. No. Every Indian citizen who's got to have some basic minimum facility should be given it. And after that, he'll take care of himself and his family. So the distinction of approach is looking at it from an entitlement perspective, which was what was earlier, to empowerment principle. And therefore, when you reach saturation and then give them the facility, they are out there to get themselves skilled, out there to be I heard Professor Raju say the sad story of that migration which happened. Referring to it, he said, now 30% of those people who came back to their villages didn't want to go back because they had acquired some skills when they were wherever in those places, and they see a potential to use those skills in their own villages, and they can see now that they can live there and earn their living with that skill that they've acquired. And therefore, when PM also envisages this country has got to have better technology-driven facility, again, as an empowerment tool. What is this one nation, one ration? A migrant worker or a worker who's gone to acquire some skill, upskill himself in some place, can use the ration as much as making sure his family gets it in this village. Technologically it's possible, that has been brought up, and therefore every time you're looking at it to empower him so that he's sure that his family is being taken care of, he can go somewhere. So the distinction is something which I want you to keep in your mind. Another thing which I would again flag and leave you all to look at it further, I'm sure the Economic Cell can also take up on this issue. The approach which, incidentally, I don't know how many of you all have had the opportunity to look at the book Modi at 20. Several writers have spoken about how different things have happened. I'm drawing upon one particular thought which is relevant for us here. The approach to development, and even as he's bringing in schemes which will benefit the most needy people, what is that approach which PM takes? Modular, which actually then, going by the principle of saturation, spreads, covers everybody. Now once that is done, and I'll give you an example so that you will understand where I'm coming from. Once that is done, for each brick which is being laid, there is some other thing with which vertical linkage will also be brought in. So PM Jan Dhan Yojana, take that as an example. Ensure that there is saturation achieved so that everybody gets a bank account, becomes financially included. Then with the Aadhaar, you also validated those accounts. Once that was done, the next layer of the brick, DBT, happened. You saved money, no pilferages, the ones who had to get it got the benefit. That happened. Then the next layer is getting done where, because now we need to help those small and medium people, self-employed people, PM Mudra was brought in. So that based on the accounts that you have, you probably had some DBT coming, but if you were self-employed and you needed some assistance, you didn't have security to give, collateral to give to the bank, you didn't have the margin money. Then came the Mudra scheme where everybody who was again eligible was given without security, without collateral, loans to run their business. And in this, I'm told, today's data may be different, but more than 45% are self-employed women. So naturally the inclusion principle gets served. Alright, then that's one layer. Then you had also PM Swanidhi, street vendors. Do they have securities? Every day they borrow money in the morning, and even as they borrow, let us say 100 rupees, 90 rupees is given in his hand. And when he comes back in the evening after finishing the business, he pays 100 rupees. Absolute rip-off in the name of interest. But these were the people who got covered next, also because the financial inclusion had already come about. So was the encouragement given to startups in the country. I don't need to talk about startups here in Bengaluru, but it wasn't an urban phenomenon. A direction was given, stand-up was given, where every bank and every district through every one of its branches had to lend to people who equivalent to startups in the rural areas for whatever little innovative thoughts they'd come up with, where to be assisted. SCs were given, STs were given, women were given. Inclusion again, empowering again. And once that is achieved, they are now understanding how they can continue to be entrepreneurs rather than dependent on their families. Now with all this happening, even from 2014, if PM Jan Dhan is a Yojana I gave you as an example, the same Garibi Hatao, but more effectively, everybody got a house. And that Awas Yojana, UP's example was quoted here. Awas Yojana is one of the most popular. However, in some states, it's been so misused in the sense, PM Awas Yojana gets a local name because the state government wants to take credit out of it. because it is some successful scheme. Housing. So was Swachhata. It had an impact on health. So was giving loans to people who wanted. MSMEs received assistance. And with all this being done, roads, flyovers, ports were not forgotten. Airports. Jewar was being given as an example. That's going to be the topmost airport in India with maximum facility in terms of the levels, extent to which the runway facility will be there. And coming close to Delhi, you can understand it's going to take quite a lot of Delhi's own passenger footfall into its own terrain. So the way in which Udan, I was just looking at some information which I had seen somewhere, more than 65 lakh people have travelled since after Udan has been brought in with just 2,500 rupees ticket. Give 2,500 for a destination for which you want to fly under Udan, 65 lakh of people have already used it. Now if all this is being put together through this principle of saturation and through the underlying principle of empower people, don't make them feel entitled to the benefits, you can see the rapidness with which it's going on and the way in which PM monitors it is not just because this scheme, how much have you targeted, have you reached the target, but also looking at many states which are even developed. But within those states, there are districts which are less developed. They've been identified, and in the last 6-7 years, every parameter which is important for that area, the aspirational district project, in a way looks at no new money, but has every one of the central scheme reached the aspirational district. That way, without political likes and dislikes, irrespective of the government which is in power, you are able to identify backward region within a state and help them directly. So these are happening as they are happening. You also find optical fibers going to every panchayat level, every part of the country. And what does that do to you? It gives you access for education, better health. So the connectivity aspect that today, unless this 5G had gone, optical fiber had gone this far, you wouldn't even be successful. Now, I'm happy to say 5G shall be launched sooner. The auctions are over, the payments are happening. Is that possible unless you had a push which is being given with political will by Honorable Prime Minister, which is what he's been relentlessly doing, whether it is for giving gas. 8 crore Indians received it in the first tranche. 1 more crore has been added. And in that migrant where laborers have also been included, which reaches everybody. At a time when, of course, natural gas prices globally are going up, but still, and keeping that in mind, look at the push which has been given and success that has been achieved with all participants, the citizens, in the renewable energies area. India is looking forward towards next 25 years. Digitization is our strength. The biggest strength which all of you all know sitting in Bangalore is the payment revolution that we are seeing. I am told the last highest number which happened within 1 month is 10 lakh crore, slightly over 10 lakh, 10.5 lakh crore worth of transaction all within 1 month. Like that, every month it is in the range of 10 lakhs, 10.2, 10.5 lakh crores of transaction in digital payments. And India is a leader in fintech, not for nothing. These are areas in which the Amrit Kal we will be building on. These are areas of sunrise sectors. Lots of innovative ways in which we are looking at electrifying rather than depending on fuel like crude oil or petrol. We are looking at education and health also becoming digital. Health is another area in which you saw the success of Ayushman Bharat, where 5 lakh rupees that you can have treatment for a poor family without having to pay cash or without having to fill up any papers. These are not possible unless there's a relentless pursuit to include every Indian, the principle of Antyodaya. Now, it's all right for people who believed in socialism trying to do something, but you saw that it is only when NDA, particularly during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's time, and now with the Prime Minister Modi's time, you're able to see that principle of Antyodaya is taken very seriously. Give dignity to the poor, but also give them the coverage that they so need for empowering themselves. I will have to give some time for Gopal to discuss and also have some interaction. There's so much to talk, so much which has been done in every, part of a society, every aspect of each of our lives. I would only request that through these 100 editions which have come, and I'm sure from now further editions which are going to come, each of us take some time to see the mammoth work Prime Minister Modi has done. It is just not possible for an India which had all these heavy legacy problems to have thrown the legacy away, to have cleared all the burdens on the public sector banks. Banks are doing profitably good business now. We had infused 3.36 lakh crores to restore them to some order. But today they are in the market obtaining loans, raising funds from the market and doing business profitably. And ensuring that also we ensure that those who have cheated the banks and gone away, they are pursued relentlessly and their properties are auctioned and the money is given back to the banks. That's happening continuously, and that is what is one of the very good principle of never let go people who have cheated the country's banks. We have ensured that we are getting the monies back, and that is a continuing process. So without taking much of your time, I would request each one of you all to take some time out, look at the economic steps documents, read please Prime Minister Modi at 20, because it gives so much of information to know what this country is now up to, and we are looking forward to the Amrit Kaal. Thank you very much.